This part is simultaneously really sad and really funny to me. Sad because Connie Baby is still so alone. Like, besides Laurel, who does he have to talk to about this? And even though I do think he knows she never loved Jeremiah the way she loves him, I still think this is a big insecurity of his, because she was still gonna choose Jeremiah anyway. And when he hears from Jeremiah and not her, that she and Jeremiah are talking again, it's just like another stab to the heart. Especially since, Jeremiah cheated on her. You'd think that'd be a reason for them not to talk that soon after, they broke up. Even though they were about to get married. But, it still may seem to Conrad like, Jeremiah has done all these things, but never seems to face, consequences for his actions. Meanwhile, Conrad is all alone in California, facing every single consequence. But I think this right here can tie back to another line just a little bit earlier in this book. I put up with a lot worse from you. I said it automatically. I said it without thinking. I don't think what she means here is that what Conrad did was worse, because, objectively, it wasn't. I think what she means is that what Conrad did hurt her worse. And here's where we get to what I think is the funny part. He never meant as much to Belly as Conrad did. He did not have her heart the way Conrad did. So nothing he ever did, no matter how bad it was, would ever hurt her the way Conrad shutting down did. And that's why it's easier for Belly to get back in touch with Jeremiah first. It's easier for both of them to get over, because I personally don't think that Jeremiah really loved her the way he was supposed to for someone who was going to marry her. I personally always think they were just supposed to be friends. So it is less awkward around them because their feelings weren't as involved romantically. But I think all of this will make Conrad and Belly coming back together mean so much more, because they've taken the time, because they've done the work, because he's pouring his heart out and trying his hardest to communicate and directly tell her how he feels, especially in a way that's trying not to disturb her boundaries while she's in Spain. He's doing it through letters, and I just think that will mean so much for her. And I just really, really hope that we see all of this in a lot of detail in the show. I don't want it to be an afterthought like it was in the book. In the book, it's an epilogue that's a few pages long. And then we get 3, maybe 2 long episodes of them bringing Conrad and Belly back together. And I would love it if they show Conrad and Jeremiah, kind of mending their relationship a little bit too. And then we get the wedding. I actually had a thought the other day. You know how Belly and Conrad, before they go to the reception, they go to the beach and go in the water and get all messy. I feel like I have the best idea. Jenny Han, feel free to use this. It'd be great if you credited me, but I won't say anything. What if after they get messy, they're like, oh God, what do we do now? What are we supposed to wear to the reception? We can't be dripping water on the floor. What if they go back to the beach house and change into their Deb outfits? And those will be their reception outfits. I know it's years later and, who knows if they would fit. And I'm honestly just mainly thinking about Belly. But what if Belly's reception dress was her Deb dress? The white dress that Susanna had to see her in before she died. The dress that she and Conrad had their first, real dance in. I just think that would be, so swoony.
You'd shut down and get really cold. And I get it.
I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah, actually, let's talk about this, because I've even had to adjust my thinking on this. I've had videos in the past where I say Conrad isn't good at communication. And looking back on some things, I don't necessarily think that's the case. Like, he can be, but it's actually really more that he just shuts down when something happens to him. When he's dealing with things that teenagers don't necessarily have the emotional capacity to deal with. You know, I say that myself as someone whose dad died before I was even a teenager. Him not really communicating with Belly well that first, because he had just found out that his mom's cancer was back, and he obviously knew it was bad because she wasn't telling anyone, and she wasn't going to tell anyone until the end of the summer, and he just didn't know how to fucking deal with that. Like, does he make mistakes? Yes, absolutely. I've even talked about mistakes I think he's made, but I think the point I'm trying to make here is that he can communicate well. He has shared his feelings with Belly. I think some people forget that he went to her and poured his fucking heart out, and he's the one who initiated contact with Jeremiah. Like, he and Jeremiah completely ignored the Belly subject before Conrad brought it up. But he shuts down when he gets depressed because he doesn't want to put his burdens on other people. He doesn't like to ask for help because it was pushed on him as a child that he was the oldest and that he should take care of the others. So he doesn't really feel like he has room to be upset. He feels like he has to grieve on his own time, in private. And yeah, he needs to learn that that's not a sustainable way to live. And, you know, he does face the consequence of shutting down. You know, Belly broke up with him. He now has to see her with his brother. You know, it's shown that him shutting down is not a good thing. And he was starting to work on that until all the Belly and Jeremiah stuff happened. And now he's going to start shutting down again. But I think the difference between Conrad and Jeremiah is that what Conrad lacks in his ability to communicate when things get tough for him, it's always shown that that is something that he needs to work on. Bad things happen to him when he goes that route, when he does shut down. However, all of the not so good things Jeremiah has done, he has never faced consequences for those. And therefore, it's never shown to the audience that what he did was bad. Like, Jeremiah is just constantly getting away with shit. Constantly. And I just wonder if it was shown to the audience what he was actually doing, and if it was like actually given a name, if it was called out by another character, I just wonder if that many people would actually be on Jeremiah's side or Team Jeremiah or whatever. Like, literally, the singular instance I can think of where he gets called out is when Belly says, "Don't use me," to get back at him. But even then, he still wasn't given a consequence. Like, she's just mad at him for that second, and then the next morning, she's over it and acting like she's mad at what Conrad did when she had told Conrad the night before, you know, she wished she had known what he had told Jeremiah, so she could have fought harder for the relationship. And I'm not even gonna lie, this makes me even more biased towards Conrad. You know, I don't necessarily want to make excuses after excuses of everything Conrad does wrong, but it fucking sucks that he faces consequences for everything, you know, as it actually should be. But Jeremiah could basically get away with fucking murder. And spoilers if you haven't read the books, the dude is gonna cheat and get engaged for it. So yeah, basically I'm just mad that Conrad has a normal human response to grief and gets shit on and has bad communication claims thrown at him, which he can be bad at it sometimes, but not necessarily every single time like people think. But Jeremiah does go through the same thing. Yes, he does go through grief, but